Welcome to the Remote Work Movement podcast. After a short break to organize a conference here in Portugal, a physical conference, Remote Shift, we are now back with Ignacio Rodriguez, founder of another conference, Nomad City in Tenerife, where he brings remote work experts and actually a lot of interesting people for the movement all together in the same room. In this episode, we will speak about changing careers, how co-working and co-living spaces can grow and strategies for their success, and also, of course, his conference, Nomad City. It's incredible, all the things that Ignacio is doing in Tenerife, and I'm really excited to release this podcast and introduce you to him. Please enjoy the great and amazing Ignacio Rodriguez. So, Nacho, thank you very much for taking the time to be at the Remote Work Movement podcast. I would like to start with your LinkedIn profile and your background, because you seem to be doing a lot of things at the same time. So you are the founder of the co-living and co-working spaces at Canary Islands. You are founder of Nomad City, the conference. You are co-founder of the Remote Afterworks, board member from Alpha 90, COO from Agile Monkeys, and COO from People That Care. How in the world do you have the time to manage all this and keep the quality everywhere?
I should write a book about multitasking, and I guess a lot of people say that multitasking is bad for you, but I just don't know any other way, I guess. And to be honest, I get bored easily. So if I was doing only one thing, I would probably not do it right either. So that's how I am, and I do enjoy it so far. Sometimes it is a bit overwhelming, but it's just good so far. And it's everything is also connected. I mean, it's not random projects. There's a story behind it, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more.
You can talk about the story and how we ended up doing all these things, and specifically what techniques are you using right now to make sure that everything falls in place in the end of the day and that you are keeping up with everything that you have to do on your day-to-day life.
Well, to be honest, there's not rocket science behind it. I mean, I do work a lot of hours, so that's one of the realities. I'm going to be completely honest about that. But yeah, just to make a long story short, my background it's electrical engineer, and I've been most of my career working for a family business related to renewable energies. I was actively involved in the family business for almost 15 years. And about 5 years ago, I decided to open a co-working space here in Gran Canaria. It was a side project of the family business, actually, what made us think about opening the co-working space. And the business not really the co-working space itself original, but it was an IT-related project that we were running, and we needed a space for it, and we had this property available, and we just converted it to a co-working space. And that ignited my connection to the digital nomadism movement, which back 5 years ago in Las Palmas de Gran Canaria was already growing quite a bit. I had no idea about remote work or about people traveling the world and working remotely, and I started meeting a lot of very interesting guys that were coming to Las Palmas and working here for a couple of months, particularly during the winter time, as we are the southernmost part of Europe and it's warm pretty much all year round. So it's definitely a good place also for to spend the winter. And to be honest, I thought that this was sort of like what I was missing in my own hometown. I was born and raised here in Gran Canaria, but I lived many years in the US and traveled quite a bit through Europe and worked also in Germany, and to a point where I realized that I wanted to go back to my hometown because I do like it here a lot. But I was sort of missing that international scene, that connection with people doing all kinds of different stuff. Because the economy back in the day here in the Canaries, it's very focused on tourism and industries connected to tourism. So that was for me a huge discovery. And basically everything after it has been different strategies and different projects trying to push this movement to become bigger and better, not necessarily only in the Canary Islands, but worldwide. And it's been also a huge learning experience as we started talking to digital nomads about what was happening also in the corporate world and how this is becoming a trend worldwide. And that's what brings us to today.
That is amazing. And I'm very happy that you and other people in the movement, and specifically in Gran Canaria, are doing such a great job to promote the movement. And I see more and more people going there, specifically on winter, but even on summer. You became one of the hotspots in Europe for digital nomadism. And besides Lisbon, which is my city, and I'm very grateful also for being from Lisbon, I'm very happy to have you so nearby and for everything that you are doing to the movement. Back in the days when you first met the first digital nomad in your life, do you remember what was your first reaction when you heard about this lifestyle, about what is this guy doing, traveling the world and working remotely? What was your first reaction? Were you surprised that this lifestyle existed? Was you a little bit jealous? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Our co-working space here in Las Palmas is Co-working C. We have 3 floors, right? And there's a basement. So at the beginning when we opened the co-working space, as islanders that we are, we set up all the desks downstairs because it was like sort of like the area that will be more focused, right? And there's on the ground floor and top floor is more light, and you see the street and whatever. And I remember the first remote worker that showed up was a guy from Norway. He was obviously looking for sunlight. He was like, dude, I mean, we have 6 months of darkness back in Norway. I want the sun all day long. And as islanders, we give sun for granted because we always have it available, right? So that was my first connection to a digital nomad. He was a very interesting guy, an entrepreneur himself from Norway, running several businesses. Wow, I mean, I definitely want that lifestyle for myself too. We start talking and after this guy from Norway, a lot of other people start coming from pretty much everywhere in the world, all the way from Australia and New Zealand, which for me was like, what are you doing here? And it got me completely hooked to the whole movement, but also not necessarily more on a selfish way at a personal level, but also, and most importantly, about the impact that actually remote work can offer. And I'm connecting this with our community, here in the Canary Islands. We have a huge problem of unemployment. The rate right now, under 25, it's almost 50%, which is ridiculous. And it's very sad because actually we have very good universities and we do have a lot of skilled and talented young guys coming out of the university, but they have 2 options. Either they are under that 50% that finds a job, which normally are not great jobs anyway, or they don't either jobless or they have to go somewhere else. And in fact, the worst part of it is that the most talented ones, even if they find a job, they actually leave because they want to find something more challenging or more connected to whatever their skills are. And remote work is an amazing solution for this. So not only to solve unemployment, but also to bring that talent back to the island, which it's super important for any community to have, a committed, talented community.
Definitely. I'm sure you know the work from Grow Remote in Ireland, and now they are spreading all over the world. Have you ever thought about opening a chapter in there, in Canary?
Well, I'm actually in touch with Tracy since they started, and I think that they're doing an amazing job. And their main motivation it's bringing people back to the rural communities, right? Which I think I find interesting how different regions have different motivations because they have different problems, right? I mean, in this case, in Ireland, obviously, unemployment in Ireland is not really a big problem. It's more that it's very centralized under the big cities like Dublin, right? I was there last week, and it's quite amazing the amount of people and companies and and how the economy is booming there now, particularly with Brexit, right? But in the Canaries, our motivations are a bit different, as I mentioned before, right? So I want to generate opportunities for them too. So it is a bit different. The rural areas are also probably a problem here, but not as much as it is in Ireland.
Definitely. I think in Portugal, we are more similar to the situation from Ireland, because we are very, very much centralized in Lisbon, a little bit more in Porto now. So actually, there is a person from Grow Remote opening in Lisbon, June Ann. She's really great, and she's from the Philippines. I think it's the first foreign person opening a chapter outside her country, and she's doing a great job in just promoting remote work first, because we are a little steps behind. Mm-hmm. But the next plan is, after getting politics involved, is to actually try and repopulate the rural areas. And I really love their mission. I think it works good with different setups in different places. I think it would work great in Gran Canaria with some adaptations, of course. And yeah, I've been seeing them all over the world doing really interesting stuff, like US. And there is also another project, Shibolan. Shelley Fosse was in the podcast before, and they are re-educating people in the US. In New Mexico specifically, people that went out from the mines that are unemployed, they are re-educating them and integrating them with remote work in companies all over the US. And I think this one is closer to what you guys can do in Gran Canaria in the future. And I'm really excited, because I'm sure you will want to have an impact on that, and you are having an impact on there. So I'm just excited to see what you are going to do next regarding that. I'm sure you will do something. I don't see you just getting quiet and letting it go.
Well, I mean, it just makes sense. I mean, I think that the whole value proposition of remote work, once you understand it and do it properly, it just makes sense. So things that make sense end up, being a reality. And I do think that this is definitely going to become a reality sooner or later. It's just a matter of how much we speed it up, I guess.
Definitely. I want to go back a little bit, because we really move forward to remote work, as we are both very passionate about it. As a founder of a co-living and a co-working space, what are the top 3 things that you are focused right now to make sure you are growing your business and making sure that people have an amazing experience while staying there?
Well, I think there are couple of things, but if I had to name 3, first, obviously, it's community. People arrive here without knowing anyone, and on day one, they are completely connected to a large group of individuals that are like, and that they are sharing values and experiences together, right? So that's definitely something we do care a lot about, and that we have seen bringing out very interesting outcomes, right? So like new projects, new ideas, even people getting married that met in our community. So we had a little bit of everything.
Wow.
So that's first. Second, productivity. At the end, if we go to the basics, people are here because they need to get work done. Right? So other co-working spaces, other co-livings focus very much on, hey, come here, have fun, party all the time, and this and that, which is great, but it's not the priority. The priority is that we're a workspace, and you come here to work. And in the co-living, obviously, it's to sleep. So sleep well, work well, and then everything else is an addition to it, right? So productivity and community. I think what makes a difference probably with other destinations and other locations from the Canary Islands is the lifestyle. I think islanders have a very high quality of life. I mean, weather is great. The beach is right on the city. There's beautiful hiking 15, 20 minutes away. There's no commute. I mean, all things that in big cities are, very big drawbacks, here doesn't exist. And that adds up to a nice quality of living, and it's all connected. So those 3 topics are the most important ones.
First note, I have to visit you very soon, because that seems nice. I'm in the north of Portugal right now, and it's cold and raining, so I could use some sun right now. And this after 9 months in Southeast Asia, so I'm suffering a little bit around here. And the second one is community is, of course, the big word that we see in both co-living and co-working spaces, but it's something that it's not always easy to get out of a space. I think it's the most difficult thing. And it's not something that you can measure. So for business people, it's very, very hard to understand this concept of community. And I see that in a lot of co-working spaces around the world. What do you do to build a good community, specifically in this type of co-working spaces where people keep changing? You have a lot of digital nomads in your community. How can you build and maintain a good community over time?
Well, we focus a lot on the community that is here present, right? Other co-working space talk about, hey, we have 2,000 members and whatever, but yeah, how many people are there at the moment, right? And we do have a lot of recurrent members. So people coming back 2 or 3 times a year, which for us, it's the best way to measure if you're doing things right? And basically, we are very open-minded in terms of we are facilitators. We just facilitate the right environment for them to enjoy their experience and to also be proactive and do things for themselves. So we are not the type of space that organizes everything and schedules everything. We just give them the opportunity and the tools and the space to enjoy the experience. I mean, I'm always telling them, hey, are you guys organizing anything this week? Do you need anything where we can help? Instead of, no, we are doing this party or this event or this meetup for you guys. So once they take ownership, then it's how it works the best, because they get involved. They feel they have the sense of belonging, right?
That's a very, very good strategy indeed. Do you think how important is location when opening a co-living space in specific? And I ask this because I thought first it was very important, but then I found a really amazing and beautiful co-living spaces with a very strong community all over the world that are not in the places I thought them to be. And I can give you 2 cases that I know you will know for sure. One is Bansko in the mountains of Bulgaria. Amazing community, amazing CEOs. They are really great. And the second one is Sende in the north of Spain. Also in the rural area, very small village, amazing community, always bringing people over. So taking this into mind, how important is location, or can a community be more important than location when building a co-living space?
In my opinion, there's 2 things. First, the value proposition. What value are you offering as a destination? And there's all kinds of different values. I mean, here we offer a city that it's large enough, but it also doesn't feel too big, has a beautiful urban beach, it's lively, it has all kinds of things, and there's a segment of people that enjoy that, right? I mean, I love what the guys at Bansko are doing, because I mean, you would not expect them being able to build something there, but they're also very clear on their value proposition, right? So, and obviously they do an amazing job, bringing people together and making it dynamic, et cetera, et cetera. And that's why it works, because it's natural and it's a good job. So I guess obviously having the values clear, the value proposition, and doing a good job in terms of the management.
So hopefully we'll have many more amazing places coming in the future in more creative spaces, not only in the normal places that we expect to see co-livings like Lisbon and Porto. I'm very excited for that. I think the next step of the digital nomadism, now that the movement is getting more mature, is actually we want to explore different places. We are always going to the same, but we also want to see something different. And you and Bansko are actually offering this a totally different setup from the normal we are used to see. Taking all that into account, and this is my last question about co-working and co-living spaces. We right now have 2 big players in the market. In my opinion, they're a little bit different, but I want to know what you think about them. One is Selina in the co-living space. They are much more in South America and right now in Portugal as well. They are opening 4 or 5 spaces in here. And the second one is WeWork with IPO, or probably the failed IPO we know by now. These are big players, and they are in the market. They are trying to conquer all the markets. What do you think about these more corporative co-living and co-working spaces? And do you think that they will affect the smaller businesses like yours and many others that are already in the market?
That's a tough question. Let's start with.
I know. Sorry.
Let's start with WeWork. I've been studying WeWork since they opened, basically. As you know, as a co-working founder, we're always interested on what the big guys are doing. And to be honest, I never managed to understand what the heck they were doing. And I was like, either they have the secret sauce, or I'm stupid enough not to understand it. And I'm not happy that what they are going through right now, obviously, but it's sort of like makes me think that I just wasn't wrong. That you just were doing something that didn't make any sense, right? Because I know the numbers about managing space and costs behind it, operations, and I could picture scaling this to probably not their level, but almost. And on the other hand, I see how much money they spend on the stuff they do and how much they charge, and I'm like, my math doesn't work, basically. On the other hand, I think that they are doing a great favor to the whole industry. Obviously, by burning the money that they've burned, they are actually encouraging big companies and small, medium-sized companies to actually move out of their standard offices and join co-working spaces worldwide. So on that side, I think that it's the best thing that could happen to the whole industry. Let's see how the story ends up, right?
Yes.
But and then going back to Selena, as far as I know, there are some WeWork investors behind Selena. I don't know too much about it, but that's what I've heard. They are scaling quite fast. I can't. I've been to WeWorks, but I've never been to Selena, right? So I don't have a personal opinion on the experience and the value proposition. I see obviously the marketing that they do and the locations where they are betting for and so on. And eventually, I think that it makes sense. But I haven't. As it is a newer business than WeWork, I haven't spent much time looking into it to see if the business itself makes sense. I do also know the numbers of Coliving, and I know it's not as easy as people think in terms of make it profitable and make it sustainable. And they're also investing, a lot of money. So I hope that they can be sustainable in the future too.
I definitely hope so. I know some people there. I like what they're doing, kind of like you with WeWork. I like what you are doing. I think like WeWork also, I always compare these two projects. I think they are very similar, although with different markets. I think the idea is great. It's basically a mix between hotel and co-living space. But of course, some spaces are just too big to actually have a proper community. So yeah, let's see. I'm very excited. They are here in Portugal. I will meet one of these days the space from Porto. I've been in the one from Lisbon, and they are actually also our partners. So I'm very excited about that. And there's one thing I like about them is that they are super open to organizing anything in their space. It's not normal in such big spaces that they just open the doors to all good event that makes sense to them. They have a super open door policy, and I appreciate that because it's really helping me and helping other people that are trying to make the remote work movement better here in Portugal. They are helping us by opening the doors of their really beautiful space. But let's see if worldwide the business makes sense. I hope so, but I'm very excited to see the future for both these companies. WeWork is in trouble. Selena is still growing, still with good numbers. Let's see the future. And we'll change gears a little bit to one big event coming up very soon, Nomad City, that you are the founder, of course. And what is Nomad City? Can you tell us a little bit about it? And also, I want to know the story from the first one. How did it all start? I'm organizing my first conference right now, so I'm really curious to see the struggles that you face in the first Nomad City.
Awesome. Well, Nomad City is a yearly conference that we host here in Las Palmas de Gran Canaria. To be honest, I don't like to call it a conference because I think when I picture a conference, I picture the typical event where you go and you hand out your business cards and you listen someone speak, and then you go home and collect cards, business cards, right? And that's definitely not. That's the completely opposite of what we are trying to build with Nomad City. I think it will be better to go to your second question. Going back to where we are coming from. Nomad City started as an excuse to generate content that allowed us to promote the destination in a different way. And I'll explain that further. The Canary Islands have been for 4 decades tourism destination. I think last year we received like 15 million tourists in the Canary Islands as a whole. And just for you to have an idea of the scale, the population here is 2 million. So we receive 15 million a year and we are 2 million. So it's a very mature market, right? And the problem with this is that in the back of a lot of remote workers' minds, we are exactly only that. I mean, a destination where you will go and take your family on holidays. They wouldn't expect this to be a destination where you can, work remotely from and enjoy, have fun, and do something completely different to what traditional tourists does. And 4 years ago, very focused on trying to attract digital nomads to Gran Canaria. Back in the day, was also starting, and their first cruise departed from Gran Canaria, and we decided to host a joint event together, focusing on the topic of digital nomadism. So traveling and working remotely while you travel. And over the 4 years after this, so there 3 previous editions, with the content and the purpose of the conference has been evolving, as we also have learned a lot in the process about what's happening, not only to digital nomads, but what's happening to remote workers, what's happening with companies, what's happening with work from home, what's happening with rural areas. So the whole umbrella of remote work, it's much wider than just digital nomadism, right? And we thought that was even more interesting as a topic and as an event with a strong content, and we've been evolving it every year and trying to make it better and better. And yeah, we are on our 4th edition right now. I'm very excited about it, and we will start on November 7th. With a great lineup of speakers. We have 3 days. 1 day is workshops. The workshops, we separate them in 2 different tracks. The track is more focused on freelancing and what freelancers need to know about remote work. The other track is focused on teams and companies, so how to interact, how to communicate, how to organize yourself. And the second day, the main conference day, we have the keynotes. Here we talk about state of remote work, we talk about onboarding, we talk about the challenges and the advantages of growing a remote business. We talk about scaling with freelancers. So a lot of topics that are applicable both to freelancers and companies, but also cover the impact of remote work. And lastly, which is one of the things that we are most excited about, we are, for the first time, hosting a summit on November 9th. The idea behind the summit is that every year we see a very interesting group of remote work advocates joining us. And there's a lot of side conversations during side events that we organize during the week. We organize a surf session. We even organize once a gincana around the city. And people managed to connect at a very deep level because they were having fun together, but at the same time talking about what drives them, right, in terms of remote work. And we saw every year a lot of great things happening after the conference. So, people getting together to build a new project or participate together in another conference on another event, or writing a book. And we said, okay, well, we do have to target this and make sure that this happens at a higher speed. And this is why we are building the summit. The summit is an invitation-only event. It's limited to 60 people that are demonstrated, experienced remote workers. And it's structure without structure. So it's an conference. So, there's no topics before. We everybody gets there. We have a master of ceremonies running the show. Everybody brings out topics they want to talk about and also questions they want to solve. And everybody votes, the topics they are more interested in, and generate different groups and debate actively throughout the whole day. So I expect a lot of great things coming up from the summit.
That looks amazing indeed. That is very exciting, and I'm sure that the conference grew a lot since the first time you organized it 4 years ago. What mistakes have you done in the first one? Everybody gave me good feedback because I got to know you through other digital nomads and people. But what mistakes did you make on the first event that you organized 4 years ago that you make sure this will never, ever happen again in the future? Is there anything that comes to mind?
Tough question. We have learned a lot. So every year, I think we have done it better. I see that obviously from the get-go, we would have not been able to put together what we are putting together for this edition, but this is just a learning process. But to be honest, I don't see any huge mistakes or things that way roads that we committed to. Perhaps last year we didn't have enough food. That maybe solves your question. We need more food this year.
If you have Portuguese people, always double the food.
Yeah.
We like to eat.
Yeah. And put some bacalhau on the menu too, right? No, to be honest, the event this year has nothing to do with the first event. That's the reality. Not only we are moved to a larger and beautiful venue already last year, which we are repeating this year. We have workshops are much deeper and longer this year, and this is something that we improved. The summit, obviously, it's a new thing. We're hosting a side event that is not even public, which is a roundtable around the topic of economic development, because we have 4 experts on the topic attending the conference, and we want to really understand what they are doing in their own communities and trying to bring conclusions that are applicable to our community, and I'm really excited about that. It's just a learning process. I think that there is no, you learn from your mistakes and you just improve it, but nothing too important to mention.
That's good news for me, I hope. In the lineup for this year, you have a lot of really, really interesting people and even some friends. I would just give you some. Angelina, Marcus from Buffer, I was with him on Monday. Roberta Savansky, I was with her in Budapest, also speaking there. Angelique Slope, based in Lisbon. Tammy from Workplaces, doing an amazing work educating people. I'm wondering, what is your criteria to find the right speakers for the conference?
Well, that's a very good question, because this is something that we actually changed from the previous editions. Normally, in the previous editions, what we did was to try to reach out to speakers and ask them what they wanted to talk about, and then try to organize an agenda accordingly, right? This year, we moved things around. So basically, what we did is we run a survey with our audience for 2 months a while ago, and asked them from a whole list of different topics what they were more interested about, what they wanted to learn more about. And we did a ranking of topics. And then with those topics, we went out and found the speakers that could cover those topics best, right? So 70% of the content that we're going to have this edition, it's not decided by us, it's decided by the audience. The rest of the 30%, we obviously have added some additional values, because we also realized that our audience is also evolving. So probably the audience that we'll have this year is going to be a bit different from last year. So I think that this helped us a lot, and we do have also a couple of returning speakers because we've built a relationship with them, and we continue it, and that's how we went about it this year.
That is great. I think it's how it should be done. We are doing both here as well, but it's our first conference. Like, things will get messy for sure. You talk about the evolution of your audience, and I believe that's not only because it's of course because the event is growing, but it's also because the digital nomad movement and the remote work movement is now getting more mature and growing more than ever. I want to speak a little bit more about the specific digital nomad movement right now. What is your opinion about the current state of the digital nomad movement? You deal with a lot of digital nomads in Canada. Is something changing? Do you see more responsibility? Do you see different people coming to your space? What do you think is changing right now in the movement?
Well, I think, and to be completely honest and clear about this, I think that the digital nomad movement is maturing. I don't know if that's the right word in English, because I've seen over the last 5 years a lot of events and digital nomad advocates, just to put them in a tag, selling an idealistic concept of remote work, which is fine, because at the end, if that triggers those people to actually, go through a process and end up, with the reality, they actually, that's just a process, right? But I do see some people just sticking with that message and that, audience, and trying to target new audience that is unexperienced, try to make business out of it. And I really want to distance myself and our event from that, because I don't think that that's sustainable and that doesn't bring real value. So we are just very clear, very realistic about all the things that we talk about. Of the nation where we push it a bit, it's just because we really enjoy it. As I said, I lived in many cities around the world, and I realized at one point that I just wanted to live here because I really enjoy it, and that's what we communicate. So, and when you're honest about your communication, then the expectations of your audience are real, and then they are like, okay, well, these guys are telling the truth, and I like it because that's what I was expecting. Right? If you bring the expectations too high and sell sort of like a dream, and then sooner or later people will realize that that's not true. So.
Exactly. I see a lot of people still selling the work from the beach lifestyle. And I said before, I never met someone who actually worked from the beach in the digital nomad movement. I see a lot of people working hard at co-working spaces. I see a lot of people working at cafes. In the beach, not yet. And I was in Bali, I was in Thailand, I'm in Portugal right now, and I still miss to see all the people that are working from the beach and the laptop or from the top of the mountain. Bringing some more reality to what we are promoting is good, because people still think when I say I'm a digital nomad that my work is social media and Instagram, that I'm an Instagrammer for life or I have a blog. I do have them, but I don't use to promote that much. Taking all that into account, and if you had any power to change anything about the digital nomad movement, what would you improve, and what ideas would you have that you would like to see implemented in the future of the movement? I can give you an example of one thing I'm enjoying while you think about it, because this is kind of a more difficult question. I see more and more movements like NGOs trying to give back. So one of the good examples is Nomads Giving Back from Tarek. He's based in Bali, but he's trying to spread the movement all over the place. And the concept is quite simple. Is we are in different countries, in different places all the time. And we a lot of times want to give back, because most of the people in the movement are really, really nice, but it's hard to find a way to give back to the community. And by having these organized movements like Nomads Giving Back, we can actually have an impact and help the communities where we are living, even if we are there just for a short period of time. What other things do you think you would like to see in the movement being applied in the future?
Well, I definitely support Tarek's project. I think he's doing a great job. And I think that this is really, I mean, strictly when we talk exclusively about digital nomads, right? So those who travel intensively. And if we think about how digital nomadism evolved and why it started in Southeast Asia mostly, is because a lot of European and North Americans they wanted a cheap lifestyle in a tropical scene, right? And in my opinion, what has happened in those destinations are just bubbles of digital nomads, living in their own style, but not connecting at all with what surrounds them, right? And this is something that here in Gran Canaria we've tried to avoid as hard as possible. So one of my big concerns here in our co-working space, in our co-living, is that people actually interact with the local community, and it actually happens. So I think that's one of the things that I would definitely like to see improved. So people not just traveling because it's cheap to live somewhere else and take advantage of the currency exchange, or it's a third world country, but actually giving back in any way they can, and also connecting to the community where they are spending some time. Because the problem that we currently have is the way tax works around the world. Digital nomads are sort of like over the surface. So at the end, they end up spending resources, contaminating in a way, or whatever in a specific space. They take advantage of the price difference and the services and whatever, and they just pay taxes at home. So at the end, that's really not sustainable, and I think that's not definitely helping the movement at all. Because at the end, we already see some countries tackling into this and making sure that, hey, if you're here and working, you're going to pay taxes here. So if that comes from the community, instead of trying to play the trick or being outsmarting the system, that's definitely going to be an advantage and be very positive for.
Definitely. And regarding that, I definitely think we need a system, a better system, or a system at all, because most countries don't have anything. Just to acknowledge that these people that work remotely for one country or for different countries exist, and build a system for the visas first. I would love to have a visa in the different countries where I don't mind to pay more, or I don't mind to have certain conditions to stay there for 6 months or 1 year. But yeah, having that freedom, taking into account that we are not there for working and for stealing jobs to the local communities. Usually what I see in places like Bali, it's happening the other way around. A lot of nomads that are staying there longer term are actually trying to hire Indonesians to their businesses. So yeah, I would love to have some visas, and there is some countries working on it. Estonia is a great example. Not super tropical, a bit cold in most of the year. But yeah, they are leading the way in a lot of things, and that is definitely one of them. I'm organizing a conference. You know this already. I mentioned that 10 times because I'm struggling with it. Do you have any advice to someone like me who is organizing a conference for the first time to avoid any pains that you felt doing your first conference, the first event, you don't like to call it conference, back in the day?
That's a good one. Well, I guess for us, one of the pains that we suffered was exactly when last year when we moved to a larger and bigger and more expensive venue. That really pushed us to the limits in terms of the budget and make it sustainable. I guess keeping it simple helps. In a way, for us, it was a motivation because a particular venue, it's just like amazing, and it's just like it speaks for itself and speaks for the city. It's sort of like very representative of destination. So as we have different missions and different goals with our event, one of them is promoting the destination. It made sense for us to make the effort. It was a challenge. It still is, but it was worth it, and it made sense. And then the other recommendation is I understand your event is going to be physical, right? Not virtual, right?
Yes.
Making sure you showcase the destination in a natural way so that people actually experience it the way that you like to experience it yourself. I think that that's something that we've tried every year, and we made a big effort on, apart from the main content and the workshops and the conference itself, to organize side events so that people actually enjoy the place and have different type of experiences while they are there. That helps them connect to other people attending the event, and also helps them to discover, your hometown, which I would assume that it's also important for you guys.
Definitely. And that's very good because it's very difficult. We decided to organize a little bit bigger than in the first idea. So the first idea was 150 persons, which is a lot. And we decided to scale for 300 on the first event. Great idea in the paper, but it brings a lot of headaches, as you know. But it has been a fun ride. You learn a lot on the way, and by asking to another people organizing events like you, you actually keep learning and keep seeing what people actually value in these events. It's not how beautiful the specific place is the people they know, is the information they get, is the surrounding. So we are now trying to focus a lot on that for the remote shift, the first remote conference in Portugal, hopefully, and the only one in this year at least. Talking about the future, you like me are very entrepreneurial. You keep building things, you keep entering in new projects. Where do you see doing an imagination project, exercise? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Or also, what would you like to build that you didn't manage to have the time yet because you kind of have 6 positions going on right now?
Well, one of my pending tasks is to grow our co-living and co-working structure to other islands. I think that as a destination, we have an outstanding differentiation, which is the diversity that you can find in each of the 7, almost 8 Canary Islands, right? So almost 8 because there's a very small one that just officially became an island too. So that's sort of like in the back of my hand since I started the first co-living. So allow people to move, from one place to the other and really get a sense on discover the destination as a whole and not only, Las Palmas and Gran Canaria itself. So that's one of my short or midterm goals. I'm really keen on seeing how companies like Automatic are doing this with 800, 900 people and doing it in a very efficient way. Because I think that this is the future of not only small and mid-sized companies, but also large companies. So I'm really looking forward to see how that works from the inside.
Nice. Have you ever thought about opening also outside Spain? So you have some other islands very close to you. Madeira, Cabo Verde. Have you ever looked at those islands and said, I may build something there soon?
Yeah, well, funny enough, for my previous job, I did have to travel a lot to Cape Verde. So I know Cape Verde pretty well. Been to, I think, 4 islands in Cape Verde. And it's definitely an exotic location that I wouldn't mind. They're still a bit behind in terms of connectivity. So obviously that's a drawback. But who knows? First step is Canary Islands. Second step, probably Cabo Verde or Madeira, which I haven't been, but I heard it's beautiful. So.
Oh, you are in for a treat with Madeira. You might fall in love. Be careful. The place is amazing. It's like, just beautiful everywhere and very interesting. You definitely need to go there. This is my last question, or it's more like a request for you. This is basically your time. I want you to promote whatever you have in your mind right now. I guess I know it's Nomad City. But just take your time to ask the audience to go to the event or to share something in specific, to see something about that you want them to see. This is your time. Use it the best. Go for it.
Well, to be honest, I would like to use the time to promote the movement. Actually, not necessarily only our event. Our event, obviously, it's going to be available for everyone in November if they want to come. Also, we're going to have all the content available afterwards online. But I'm more concerned about the cause of the movement. So I really would like to invite everyone, and not only professionals, but also executives, company founders, to really dig into this new way of work, because I think that it brings a lot of value to their companies. It brings a lot of values to their employees, and also brings a lot of value to society in general, because it's a matter of decentralizing work, right? And we've seen the problems that big cities and the world itself it's encountering. One of the speakers that I'm most keen on hearing about this is running very interesting project in Africa. And remote work is also a huge opportunity for third world countries in order to stabilize their economies. So yeah, basically my last words are: get into remote work, find out what would work for you or for your company, and test it out and see if it works for you.
That is an amazing request. I think we are both working very hard to make remote work more available to everyone, and that is great. Where can people find out more about yourself and, of course, Nomad City and all your projects you are involved? Where should people go?
All right. Well, you can find me on LinkedIn. Very easy. Just feel free to connect with me and shoot me a message. I also use Twitter often. And about the conference, nomadcity.org. Very easy. We are also very active on LinkedIn. So yeah, just connect with us and stay in touch about what's going to happen in the upcoming event, but also what we're going to share after the event, which is going to be also exciting.
That is perfect. Thank you so much for your time and for taking the time in this very busy moment of the year for you. And I wish you all the best for the event. Unfortunately, this year I'll not be able to go, but I will promote it around here. And fortunately, I'll be at the Web Summit, also learning a lot about big events and being involved this year. But you are on my radar, and I'm sure next year I will be there, because I said the whole year that I was going to go this year to Nomad City. It didn't happen, but next year I'll be there for sure. So thank you again for taking the time. To everyone listening, if you have some questions, reach out to us at social media. And feel free to reach out to Ignacio or to Nacho, as he's more known in the movement, and ask him questions, tell him that you love the podcast, and show him some love. If you have time, or if you are hearing this on time, go to Canaria and from the 7th to the 9th of November in the beautiful Las Palmas in Spain. The event will be great. A lot of amazing speakers will be around. A lot of friends will be there. So make sure you go, even if you are just starting in the movement. Thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye. And that's a wrap. If you enjoyed this episode with Nacho, go to his Twitter and share some love with him. Meanwhile, we have a lot more to come. Keep an eye on the feed, because we will release 5 episodes in the next 2 weeks. Yes, 5 episodes. We are a little bit late. We have a lot of good people coming from, and I'm super excited to show you everyone. A lot of the remote work movement leaders are coming to the podcast to share their expertise and opinions, and we are having a blast creating the podcast for you. Thank you so much for listening. See you in the next episode of the Remote Work Movement. Bye-bye.